What's up guys? Welcome back to Rejected Content. Now, 2 years ago, I was introduced to the wonderful world of mini bikes by Owen and Callum when they brought over a Coleman CC100X to my house. And since then, we have built quite a lot of mini bikes. Now, when I first was exposed to this world of performance upgrades on small power washer engines, it was a little bit confusing. I mean, how do you know what carb to get, what cam to get, what flywheel you need? It was all a lot of learning. But since then, I have spent a lot of time with Owen and Callum researching, experimenting, and utilizing all of these performance parts. A couple months ago, Owen and I picked up this wonderful bone stock B200 from a man on Facebook Marketplace. Look what we got.
Chevy running, Chevy unloading.
As you know now, I've been through I've been through 4 mini bikes, but this is my final new mini bike.
Frick yeah, boy!
And today, I am going to be performing a full Stage 2 performance upgrade on the stock 196cc clone motor. Let me take you along, show you what we've learned, and give you our part recommendation. Alright, this is your standard clone engine. Right here, this is a 196cc engine, but they're all based off of the Honda GX motors, which range from 160cc all the way up to about 224, 236 cc's. So an engine is essentially an air pump. The more air and fuel you can get into it and out of it, the more power you're going to make. And you might be able to tell just by looking at it, but this is a pretty restrictive intake. The air comes in through this box, through this foam filter, and down here into the carburetor where the air and fuel get injected into the cylinder head. So the way that you start to make power is by changing this carburetor. In the case of this Stage 2 build that we are going to be doing, we are going to be taking this one, getting rid of it, and replacing it with a slider carburetor. Now on a Stage 1, which is a slightly less performant build, you can just slap a less restrictive filter on this style carb, but one of the main benefits of the slider carb is throttle feel. So this carburetor gets engaged by this mechanism right here, which is a combination of springs and rods, and it's also governed. With the slider carb, it is a much smoother actuation force, and it allows a lot more fuel and air into here. So that is what we are going to be removing first. Alright, so for Stage 2 slider carbs, we here at Rejected Content have used primarily one of 2 options. They are both based off of the original Mikuni style design. Here is the cheapest one. It is a standard Amazon slider carb called a VM22. It has a standard choke and slide, and these do work. However, you might need to do some tuning, some jetting, some general adjustments to get them to run properly on your build, which you may not know how to do. So what we've been running recently on all of our most premium builds is this. It's called a Nibby carburetor. This is a PE22, which is actually a 26mm carb, but as you may be able to see through the camera, these are built much better. The slide on the inside is much heavier, much more of a feeling of quality, and these things have really saved several of our builds. They go right on, they generally need little to no tuning, and they're very stable throughout all seasons. But there's a couple other things to consider. While this is $20 more than this, the Amazon carburetor comes with all of the things that it needs to be connected, such as the manifold and the filter. The Nibby comes with its own filter, but no manifold. For a long time in mini bikes, this was the standard intake manifold. It's a piece of CNC aluminum that sits right here between your engine and your carburetor. These are fine, but in the past couple years, we found a hidden gem, which is an EC billet intake manifold. Now, I don't have an EC one right here. I have an Amazon version, but the concept is still the same. It's a piece of billet aluminum like this, and it snugs the carburetor much closer to the engine than that cast aluminum version. You can see this one right here has a pulse fitting, which is a piece for advanced fuel systems, but it also comes with a blocker. So this is what we recommend. It is our most premium fuel system. Similar to the restrictive carburetor, the stock exhausts on this are also super restrictive. They have a lot of baffles in there to make them quiet, but as a result, they do not let a lot of air pass. So when you do a stage 2 build like this, you also want to replace the exhaust. Now, the kind of exhaust that you're going to choose is going to be dependent on your frame, but today I have this one that is made for the Megamoto 212, which is the frame that my bike happens to be based off of. So 2 bolts, and this will be off just like the car. Now, if you're going to have a performance exhaust such as this, you're going to have to consider a muffler. Simply straight piping it is too loud. It might give you the technical maximum performance, but there is a noise problem. So for this bike, I've actually acquired 2 different style mufflers that we have used in the past. This right here, which we like to call the canister style muffler, is the most common aftermarket muffler that you will see. It is also the cheapest. Coincidentally, it also happens to be the quietest. So this is what I would recommend for most builds where quietness is important. It still provides much higher flow than the stock exhaust with the quietest sound. Additionally, on this build, I have acquired a pit bike style muffler that has the same style screw thread on the back of it. This is similar in style to that muffler, except from testing on Jacob's bike, I know that it has a deeper and throatier sound while being a little bit louder. On Callum and Owen's bike, they each have custom exhaust systems that have various baffles, and while those are louder, they are custom tuned to make some fantastic sounds. Alright, so now that we're in the engine, there is a couple performance parts that you must be familiar with. So right here is your camshaft. This is the wheel that rotates. Actually, I could pull it out right here. And you can see that these lobes right here, that's what they're called, they push up on these lifters, which push the rods up, which move the valve springs, which allow fuel into the head, and then eventually push exhaust out of the head. The camshaft is where you get a lot of your performance. Here is the replacement one that I will be putting in this motor. This is a Hot 265 cam. The performance part of the camshaft comes from the fact that the lobes might be bigger than the stock one that allows more fuel and more air in. Additionally, in some engines, such as this specific Clone 196 and the 224 Predator engines, they come with a plastic gear cam rather than a metal gear cam. These are known to explode at super high speeds once the engine is ungoverned. Speaking about the governor, it is located up here at the top of the engine. You have to remove this pin from the back, you have to remove this arm right here, and once you do that, the engine will no longer be limited in speed. This right here is a Hot 265 cam from Go Power Sports, and we like it because we have felt that they make a lot of great power in the rev range that we are hanging out in. When you're choosing your cam, just make sure to look at the rev range that they're rated to make power at, and make sure that aligns with your choice. Next up is a component that does not give you any additional performance, but drastically increases the safety of the engine. It is your connecting rod. Here is an extra one that I have. It is not the one that's inside of here, but as you can see, the stock connecting rod is made out of a cast material. Once the motor is ungoverned and able to spin up to theoretically any speed, these are known to blow up. So you need to upgrade to a billet rod. There are several different options. This one right here is one that can be found on Amazon, but there are also a couple made by companies such as EC and ARC. The EC rods are the most expensive. They are forged rather than milled, but they have the least clearancing requirements for all of these clone motors. They are designed perfectly to fit in without any sort of problems. The ARC rod is a more premium option as well. However, it might require some clearancing. This is very similar to the ARC rod in shape and size, and while the finish is not quite as premium, we have found out that they hold up great and offer a little bit of a cost savings. So that is what I'll be putting in this motor. Alright, so wrist pin diameter is actually something that you have to consider pretty heavily when deciding on your billet rod. Most clone engines, such as Predator 224s, Chinese clones, they use a standard wrist pin diameter of 0.706 or something very close to that. Unfortunately, Tillotsen's and Predator 224s use a Ducar casting with a special, slightly larger wrist pin diameter. Unfortunately, motors such as the Predator 224 and Tillotsen 212 use a Ducar casting with a slightly larger 0.716 wrist pin diameter. We do not know of an Amazon rod that currently has that sort of wrist pin, so you're going to have to stick with an EC or ARC rod if you have one of those motors.
In addition to those primary performance components, there's also a couple other things you have to worry about. In performance motors such as the Tillotsen 212, 18-pound valve springs come stock. In other motors though, like the Predator 212 and other 196 clone engines, you're going to need to upgrade those yourself to prevent valve float at high engine RPMs. Another thing to consider is flywheel. We use one of two options. Unfortunately, you have to upgrade your flywheel when ungoverning the engine because they are known to explode at high RPMs. You can either use a billet flywheel from ARC or a PVL cast flywheel from a site like Amazon. Unfortunately, both of these flywheel options remove the ability to use a charge coil for bikes with headlights built in, and so you have to find alternatives like battery power as described in our electrical video.